You know, F1 history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it does rhyme. With that umbrella heading, can you say the following? 2012, Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel. Do you remember 2021, Sir Lewis and Max Verstappen? And more to the point, do you remember 1989, Senna and Alain Prost? There are these moments in every young driver's career when they have to show and prove, defend or vacate, and that time is now for OJ Piastri. People have said for the longest time that this dude is the next one, breathing rarefied air, that he is one of only a few, mention no names, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, to win F2 and F3 on his maiden voyage. But again, that's all unfulfilled promise. Mention no names, Lando Norris, who we will speak to in a couple of minutes. Now, though, it feels a little bit different. Yeah, of course, you've got to give the proper context. Does Oscar Piastri have a car advantage over the fire-breathing dragon who is Maximilian Verstappen? You bet your bottom dollar he does, but so too does Lando Norris, aka Dustin from Stranger Things. And only one of those drivers in that papaya-coloured car was able to put it on pole today. Round 7, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. That driver had a name, and his name is OJ Piastri. Techier than techie things. It's not necessarily the speed, and he was fast, ladies and gentlemen. You see the speed that he took through Sector 2. That's ultimately what won him the pole, what gained it for him over Maximilian Verstappen, for some say soon to be 5-time. It was his bravery and, more to the point, his execution. In the first instance, on the bravery, Oscar Piastri had lost a ton of time due to back markers and straddlers in Sector 3. Ravazza settings in the Q3, in peak times when he needed it most, he had exactly the same circumstance, but was Kimi Raikkonen in there. There was no feathering of the throttle because he knew what was on the line and that there was a tax to be paid. And of course, Oscar Piastri, as per usual in 2025, was more than up to the task, prepared to pay it, and over and above. There was an opportunity before OJ Piastri, and he realised that he had to institute for it, execute it, do exactly what his old mate Lando Norris has not been able to do. I think, Houston, we have a problem here. That Oscar Piastri has the quickest machinery, and the margin of error between Max and Oscar, the amount of wiggle room that Max has, isn't the same as versus Lando, because we know what Lando's about here. Super quick, of course. Racecraft, of course. Mr. Natural Talent and Ability, of course. But yet again, this is the third time in the last 4 races that that dude has qualified, not on pole, but outside of the top 3. What are we doing here, chat? Is this not levels of underperformance that warrant some communication? Is this not levels of underperformance from Lando Norris, aka Dustin from Stranger Things, that needs him to go away and have a word with himself, have a cheeky look in the accountability mirror and understand what's going wrong? Do like Nico Rosberg did in 2016 and sit down with a sports psychiatrist maybe once every couple of days to the tune of 2 hours, because Lando's potential, not insubstantial, I have you know, is now wasting away at the altar of Oscar Piastri's fulfilled potential. It isn't about beating Max for Lando Norris now. It's about beating the guy on the other side of the grid in the same car, because what Oscar Piastri is doing is making McLaren's decision around team orders very easy. One would argue that at this point, because of Oscar Piastri's most recent form and moreover his ability to execute in the peakiest of peak F1 moments, mention no names Q3, with a fire-breathing dragon in Max Verstappen breathing down his neck, because of all of the aforementioned, Andrea Stella and Zach Brown, it's a no decision who they're backing if we're talking about the Drivers' Championship. Oh, and by the way, shout out to King George Russell. Took a gamble, never hesitates to play a joker, jumped on the mediums, which of course was the soft est compound tyre from last year on the back of Pirelli's introduction of the C6 tyre. It worked. And I think the likes of Piastri and Verstappen, with the benefit of hindsight, will look back at that as a god tier decision. Yes, there will be an equal and opposite downside for George and the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth in the race, but yet and still sometimes track position is key if Frederick Vasseur is to be believed, and this is a qualifying championship. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Frederick Vasseur, what is he doing? What are they doing? 11th and 12th. Both Scuderia Ferrari, them, their red cars with the yellow badges and black prancing Corsa top, don't even get through to Q3. Both of them. This reminds me a couple of races ago when both of them got disqualified, but this is a different context. This is the first Italian Grand Prix of the year. Both of them gone, so questions need to be asked. Indeed, there will be an inquest at the C-suite exec level bods at Scuderia Ferrari. The likes of John Elkann will be saying, what is this? We paid $100 gazillion to get rid of Carlos Sainz, who, by the way, was pole for a little while there in Q2, to get into the team one Sir Lewis Hamilton. You guys said you were going to have a god tier car for 2025. Where is it? What are we doing? What are Scuderia Ferrari doing? The only thing that they seem like they can get right is their bloody pit stops, which have been god tier, by the way, which makes the whole aspect look even worse. They are nowhere. That car is rubbish. Pliability, gonzo, 0 out of 10 as near as makes no difference, which means, therefore, both Lewis and Charles are struggling to get that car through the likes of Variante Alta, chicane settings, low minimum speed, which means, therefore, that the suspension will need to be pliable, and they don't have it. They don't have anything Scuderia Ferrari. Frederick Vasseur, as at the 17th of the 5th, worthy of mention. Charles Leclerc did one of these. He looked like he was out of Ferrari. He was gone. Gonzo se acabó. His chances of winning a Drivers' Championship, notwithstanding, he's delivering, outperforming the cars, some may say, are as near as makes no difference, 0. And Ferrari should be ashamed of that. Oh, and by the way, let's talk about Maximilian Verstappen, because there's something called inevitability. I felt like Maximilian Verstappen, I would have put my life on him putting on pole, particularly as he nailed Sector 1. He was up a 10th as versus Oscar Piastri in provisional pole at the time. And Max Verstappen, if past his prologue, is inevitable, therefore. But Max said after the qualifying session that they put on the S6, the softest compound tyre, and that made a difference. All of what he'd taken out of the tyre came back to haunt him in Sector 2. That's why you see the yellow mini sectors there on in. There was a change in circumstance, not to excuse Max Verstappen, because I think he still could have put it on pole. How can we look at his most recent showings and not extend that level of expectation to the foursome, so soon to be 5-time champion? It would be disingenuous, no foolhardy of us. But James Allen, most recently on the James Allen on F1 podcast, one of the goatiest journeys to have ever journo, said the following about Oscar and Maximilian Verstappen to a certain extent, that the two of them have epitomised inevitability. You see Suzuka and you just feel that Max Verstappen is going to capitalise on any blood in the water, the shark in jaws that he is. So too, Saudi Arabia qualifying, same thing at Miami. There is just a sense, no air of inevitability about Max Verstappen when he wakes up in the morning and has his Weetabix, because generally he's better than the rest, notwithstanding a vehicular deficit as versus the McLaren boys in the MCL 3.9 iteration. However, I say all that to say this. Qualifying at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix was a little bit different. James Allen said of Oscar Piastri at the last race in Miami that there was a sense of inevitability, just in the same way that there has been around Max Verstappen, around somebody different, a third party here, a new entrant, and that a new entrant has a name. His name then was Oscar Piastri, chat. I would contend that the same thing, you leverage the same sense of inevitability around Oscar Piastri, around the Grand Prix, the Imola Grand Prix, Q3 this time round. And that, ladies and gentlemen, for the championship, feels and smells and looks a little different. The same extent of inevitability of a Maximilian Verstappen, foursome say soon to be 5-time, probably not. But nevertheless, a different type of inevitability even to that which we're used to from the McLaren in the hands of Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is ever so slightly different to the other 18 on the grid not named Maximilian Verstappen. But I digress.